back to the podcast/videocast. I'm here with Christian Taylor.
Hi, Phil. That just throws me off. I think you're just going to have to say Sky Jatani
And
first.
Sky Jatani.
Hello.
Hi. We're on video once again. I don't know if you noticed, because if you're listening to this just on audio, then obviously you're not noticing that we're on video. But some of you watched it on video last week, right?
They can't talk back.
I can't hear them.
They don't talk back.
Okay. So we're doing it again on video. You'll notice, go to the wide shot, Bill. Wide shot. Okay. You'll notice we have a different desk this week than last week. And you know why? Because the last week's desk was too bright.
This is much better.
But we're not going to have a different desk every week, because that's unsustainable.
That would kind of get fun.
A desk of a different color.
Every
That's
week.
what we'll call it. Yeah,
this one matches your normal gray or black.
Yeah. Do I blend in too much on this desk? Okay, we need a theme song. Our friend, is it Anthony?
Anthony?
Yeah. Anthony requested, since we've used up all the characters that
He said we used them all up?
He believes we have covered all the characters.
Wow.
Which is probably worth some sort of commemorative t-shirt right there.
Absolutely.
Well, now that we have the video cast going, we need to get swag. We need to get our merchandise going.
Just because there's video?
No, well, yeah. But
Now,
we've been talking about doing a video cast forever. We finally got that going. We've been talking about getting T-shirts and other things.
And swag.
And we don't have that
We
yet.
have so many T-shirts that we can make right now.
Could we have shot glasses, or would we have to call them toothpick holders like they
They're
do
communion
at
cups.
Disney World? We'd have communion cups.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They just happen to be glass and hold 1 ounce.
Mazel tov. Okay, so Anthony said, could you do the theme song as Boo Boo Bird?
Who's that?
I don't know.
Is that his own character?
Boo Boo Bird is.
I have no idea. How about Big Bird? Can you do Big Bird?
Anthony, we don't know who Boo Boo Bird is. Big Bird. Well, hi, I'm Big Bird. No, I don't think I
that's
can
not
do Big
Bird.
Bird. He's just kind of squawky.
Or Snuffleupagus?
Oh, someone said do it as Wise Man number 1, which I think
Oh.
I've already done once, but I'll do it again
Okay.
anyway. But why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know who number 1 is.
Well, he's not number 2 or number 3. He's the first one. Hey, it's a podcast. What do you do? I missed.
You totally missed.
Hey, it's a podcast. So there's no... Oh, wait, there is video. This is ironical. Hey, there's a podcast. So lend an ear. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. We'll talk to Sky and Chris. Oh, that was ridiculous. Chris...
We're going to have to start this all over.
We'll talk to Sky and Christian, too, and maybe a guest. It's Wise Man number 1. I'm the guest here just for you. Sing with me, children, everywhere where you are at home. Hey, it's a podcast, so lend an ear. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right around here. All right.
Speaking of children singing along, did you see the little kid singing our podcast theme song?
Yeah, that was funny.
It was all about
Yeah, it was
Sky
on the
Jatani
Facebook
and
page.
Christian Taylor,
Yeah.
and you were Bill.
I'm Bill. I'll be Bill.
It's the Bill Vischer podcast. Is there a Bill Vischer anywhere? Do you know?
In your family?
I think there might be in Montana. Yeah, distant.
Related
But
to
you know,
Einer?
okay. Last week, I was in the Great White North. I was in Alberta.
Oh. You
Canada.
got stuck there, I remember.
Yeah, I did. I got a little bit stuck there because I think the plane was chewed by beavers, but that's okay. I made it back. But I was in Alberta, Canada. I spoke at 2 churches around Calgary. One in Calgary itself, but then I spoke at the Woody Nook Christian Reformed Church.
Okay.
Is that
that's a great name.
Woody Nook.
You got to
Woody
do
Nook.
something
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah. And Woody Nook
That's a character name right there.
it's very Dutch, extraordinarily Dutch. Everyone there is Dutch. There was even a guy there who was a greenhouse farmer in Holland and then came over like 30 years ago and is now an arborist there. So like people that you could hardly understand them. Their Dutch accents were so thick, which was kind of interesting because in Calgary, I wasn't that impressed. Like the accents weren't very strong. It's like, I'm not really. You guys aren't that Canadian, you know. It's just not that fun.
But there were Dutch accents.
But then I went up an hour and a half north of Calgary, outside Red Deer. Have you ever been to Red Deer?
No.
Yeah.
Red Deer, Canada.
Yeah, Red Deer, Canada.
Never even heard of it.
In that general vicinity, in between Edmonton and Calgary. And I went to Woody Nook Church, which was named for, there was a school on the same property, which was the Woody Nook School, and that's where the name came from, because I asked someone, why do you call it Woody Nook?
But the school came first.
The school came first, the school is now gone. And now they've even changed the name of the road to Woody Nook Road.
Well, I wonder if there was a river that was Woody Nook River.
Okay, let's get to the Woody Point.
I don't think so.
This is taking a long time, man.
It is. What is the
My
point?
point being, they have a Phil Vischer.
In their church?
Yes, but it's Dutch, and it's Vischer.
How about
An
that?
extra S, but it's Phil Vischer.
Interesting.
And I met his wife, whose name is Colby Vischer.
Wow. At least it wasn't Lisa. That would be a Leah.
They said, we have our own Phil Vischer. So they could have their own Phil Vischer
And
show.
was he anything like you?
I didn't meet him. He wasn't
that's
there. I met his
unfortunate.
wife. I don't know if he's like me. How could
There's
he be?
no one like
Probably
you.
not.
How
No.
could he be?
Have you? We know you met another Christian at the grocery store last week.
Oh, did you see that?
No, you said
No,
it
you
last
told
week
us on the show
podcast.
last week because he had a
right.
name tag that
Yeah.
said Christian.
I have no memory.
There was another guy named Sky that moved into my high school when I was in high school because I'd been
Really?
I was in the same school district my whole.
Was he Indian?
No. But I didn't know that this guy had moved into the school named Sky. And one day, somebody came up to me and said, I heard you did all these terrible things this weekend at some party. I don't know what happened. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I find out that there's this kid who moved in named Sky. And I felt violated. like my trademark
You felt
had been,
your identity had been
Yeah, because I'm not like a John or a David or a
No.
Michael, which there were
You're
half
like
a
a
dozen.
Sky.
I'm Sky. I'm the only Sky.
Yeah, I'm the only Sky, and I'm the only Phil Vischer. I thought.
Yeah.
I used to be the only, female Christian.
Really?
Yeah, everywhere I go, they're men.
Oh.
That's
I have met one female
Okay.
Christian.
We should probably talk about
Yeah,
some
what
news.
are we talking
First
about?
news, you'll notice we're not promoting Qdoba or Chipotle because I was thinking if I held up a Qdoba cup last week that I'd get a call from Qdoba headquarters offering us a sponsorship, and that did not happen. So I'm not going to hold up a Qdoba cup again. Forget about it. So I'm holding up Captain Kirk.
who are you expecting to get a call from? Scotty?
Beam me up. We don't have a Scotty.
I'm Dr. McCoy.
You're Dr. McCoy.
Spock.
And you're Spock.
Because he's biracial.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic. Not because he can make people pass out just by touching their shoulder.
Well, I don't want
That's
to
a cool
disclose
trick, too.
all my gifts.
Okay, from the Department of, and since we're on video, I can do things like this. I can hold up my little puppet. The Department of Religious People Doing Strange Things. Thank you.
Sad thing is, Phil sleeps with that puppet.
I have a much bigger one. A Saudi cleric says women who drive cars risk damaging their ovaries.
Oh,
That's probably technically true.
bad.
Well, if you get in a car accident, you
Yeah.
damage everything. A conservative Saudi Arabian cleric has said women who drive risk damaging their ovaries and bearing children with clinical problems. He says if a woman drives a car not out of pure necessity, so if you have to drive a car, it may not damage your ovaries.
Okay.
But if you drive a car not out of pure necessity, that could have negative physiological impact, as functional and physiological medical studies show that it automatically affects the ovaries and pushes the pelvis upwards. That is why we find those who regularly drive have children with clinical problems of varying degrees. And then the story says he did
What studies?
He did not cite specific medical studies to support his.
What is different about the posture of being in the driver's seat versus being in one of the other seats of the car?
Well, you have to push the pedals, so you gotta,
But walking apparently has no
You have to
damaging effects.
You
on
have to cant your pelvis to
Is
push
that a word?
the pedals. Yeah, sure.
I can't my pelvis.
CANT with no. Do a little Victor Borg.
Well, what if your pelvis has a like Ricky Ricardo?
I haven't thought of that in years.
So that's why our kids are also messed up, apparently,
Apparently,
because
now that
our
explains
wives
it.
drive.
It's not the fact that my mom smoked all during her pregnancy with me. It was that she drove a car.
Yeah, it's because she canted her pelvis while driving.
Well,
Yeah, there you go.
thank you for that wonderful bit of insight.
So,
Saudi cleric.
so what's your point here?
Stop driving.
I have another story.
Oh.
Okay. Because you say, oh, those silly Muslim, whatever they are.
Saudi cleric.
Saudi clerics. They're silly, silly, silly. We Christians never do anything silly. Christian groups sue Kansas schools, say teaching science is atheistic.
Okay.
An attempt by Kansas schools to adopt teaching standards for science is being challenged by organizations that say science teaching endorses a non-theistic worldview. The Citizens for Objective Public Education and the Pacific Justice Institute both feel that there is something terribly wrong with the new science standards. They promote atheism.
How do they promote atheism? Like if my kid, my third grader right now is learning about the water cycle, which I think is fairly standard
benign.
science.
Do you think that's benign?
I was going to say benign.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. They. Oh, come on. Where's that part that I should have highlighted?
I'm sure they're talking about teaching Darwinism.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. The orthodoxy. They're talking about the orthodoxy of science. Okay.
What does that mean?
And this is the kind of religious correctness of how you have to teach it.
The scientific worldview, the method, the scientific method.
It dubbed methodological naturalism or scientific materialism requires that explanations of the cause and nature of natural phenomena may only use natural, material, or mechanistic causes and must assume that teleological or design conceptions of nature are invalid.
That was a mouthful.
Well,
Did you get
but
that?
that's
I'm having some teleological right now.
the whole premise of the scientific method, though, is that things have to be experimental and repeatable and measurable and discernible, and that by its very nature rules out the supernatural.
Here's the deal.
Let's hear the deal.
The scientific method says if your mug falls off your shelf at night, you don't first assume it was a demon or an angel. You look for a natural explanation.
Okay.
That's basically the scientific method. It's the opposite of looking for a supernatural explanation. You assume, you come into answering a question about how did this get here? Why did that move? Why is my car on top of my house? Because last night I left it in the driveway. This morning it's on top of my house. Okay, if you're a highly superstitious culture, you might say demons, or you might say fairies.
Or you might say mayhem like me.
Or you
aliens. It's clearly
you
aliens.
might say aliens, which is quasi-naturalistic.
Okay.
But if you're using scientific method, you say, I think there's a natural explanation for this. There must be a natural. So I'm going to do my study assuming there's a natural cause of this. So now scientific naturalism, and this is where it becomes philosophical, not scientific. True scientific naturalism is when people turn that into a philosophy that says, not only are we going to assume a natural cause, we're going to say that there is no other potential cause but a natural cause. So that's where you get into atheism, is when you say any other cause isn't possible than a naturalistic cause.
Okay.
So what they're saying here in Kansas apparently is we're concerned that insistence on the scientific method eliminates for kids the possibility of the supernatural.
Couldn't this whole thing be solved in about 30 seconds?
How is that?
Be my guest.
Well, in the curriculum or in the textbooks they're using or the teachers, whatever, at some point to simply define the realm of science the way you just did. That science is the study of natural causes.
I define it,
but does not exclude the possibility that there may be forces and causes beyond the reach of science to understand.
Right. And
thank you very much, but we're not going to go into those in our public school system.
Right.
And now let's go on to talk about science.
Our good friend, Dr. Watson. No, it's not Dr. Watson.
He's such a good friend. We can't think of his name at the moment.
Science professor at Wheaton. John Walton.
John Walton. He's not a science professor.
No, he's not. He's a Bible professor. He's an OT professor.
Right.
But he talks about science. He writes about science.
He's down with the OT.
His book, Genesis 1, The Lost World of Genesis 1, the last chapter is how should science be taught in America? Because you've got this war between scientific naturalists and then theists who say, teach design, teach intelligent design, use the Bible in a science class. And he's saying science classes need to be philosophically neutral. Basically that it's just about looking at scientific explanations for things. But once you make a statement either that God did this or that God could not have possibly done this, because we don't believe in that, you've left science and you're in philosophy class.
Right.
And science teachers don't belong there. So his point is science teachers basically need to take sort of a Hippocratic oath to say, we will stay in the realm of science. And when you say, for example, even saying that evolution is an unguided process is a philosophical statement, because there's absolutely no proof that evolution is an unguided process. You can't possibly prove that. That's beyond the reach of science. So, so a lot of scientists would say, but that's our basic premise behind Darwinism, is that it's random and unguided. How could we not say that? And that's where it gets muddy.
Is there actual evidence in Kansas that science is being taught in a way which promotes an atheistic worldview? Or is it that
it's the new standard that's being adopted?
What is it?
They believe, I don't know, they didn't say, but they believe that it's too insistent on scientific naturalism. That's their point of view.
Okay.
And the funny thing, of course, is that the press runs with this and comes up with the headline, Christian groups sue Kansas schools, say teaching science is atheistic. Okay. Which is not what the Christian groups are saying.
There's so many layers to this, right? So on one layer, there's what's actually happening in the classroom.
Yeah, which we don't know.
Which we don't know. Then there is the layer of how are some Christians interpreting what's happening in the classroom, which may or may not be accurate.
Yeah.
Then there's the layer of how are reporters and journalists writing about what the Christians are interpreting as happening in the classroom.
Right.
And there's so many layers of garbage here.
It's like a layer cake.
But what I don't understand is when we were growing up, this wasn't a conflict. I mean, they didn't teach in my school that the biblical worldview, but I never questioned.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of parents now that are pushing and being encouraged to push for, creation science to be presented as an alternative in schools, primarily in, Kansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, a few other states, any state within 500 miles of the Creation Museum in Lexington. Are pushing for, hey, you have to show them the options. The other option that God did it. And you have to understand that the option that God did it isn't a scientific pursuit.
Right.
That's a theological, philosophical pursuit. So to ask that a science teacher presents a philosophical pursuit is really...
But what they're arguing is that to present science, they're saying science is
innately philosophical. Right. And the trick is... Yeah, but if you want them to present the Bible, then you're really opening the door for a scientist to present whatever they want to present.
Right. Or why not have Hindu parents get up and say, we want you to teach the Hindu mythologies of creation?
Why not?
Why not?
That would make science very interesting.
Right. See, what
little puppet
a lot of times
of different
would be nice.
views.
I'd like that.
A lot of times these Christians, and they're not just in the science area, but
these Christians, was that a disparaging remark?
Well, I think
disparaging.
Those who are fighting these kinds of battles is what I mean. They're short-sighted. So there was a case a number of years ago, I think in Georgia, of a group of students who weren't allowed to have a Bible study at their school.
Yeah.
Student-led thing, and they sued for their... And they won, and they kept going, and they fought, and I think it got all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said, yes, students can have this group. Years later, a gay organization on campus, this school wanted to have an organized group of gay students, and all the parents went, no, you can't do that because we're a conservative southern town, and we're,
it offends our morals.
Right, and you can't do it. And eventually went to court, and the court ruled, yes, they can, based on the very same ruling that allowed the Christians to meet and have a Bible study. And I'm not saying one was right or wrong, but I'm sure that when those parents fought in the courts for the right to have a Bible study, they didn't think one day that that same law would grant the rights of a gay student group to have what they want.
Right.
Same with prayer in school. Some folks really want prayer in school. Okay, you might win that battle. You probably won't. But if you did, are you also then going to be okay with Muslim prayers in school?
Right.
And Buddhist prayers in school?
If your kids go to school in Dearborn, Michigan, they're not going to be Christian prayers.
So if you really want the Christian or even a theist view of creation taught in school, then you need to be prepared to open the floodgates for every view.
So I've been reading these books, because I can't stop reading books. You know that about me.
I don't know, you've turned a new leaf.
You know that about me,
He
right?
reads the spine on the shelf.
No, this is the first time I've actually heard him plowing through books.
Thank you. So I read Christian Nation and learned how terrible we are, but I also learned how bad the research was that this guy did. It was primarily reading some other books. So then I read one of the other books that he read to try to figure out what...
Theocracy in America.
American Theocracy.
Or that.
Yes. Yeah, that. And that's interesting. And one of the points that both of these authors have made that I have to admit I kind of agree with is that we can be kind of hypocritical about what...
Don't say we.
Kind of what I am not...
I statements, Phil. I statements.
Ice cream?
You scream.
Oh, come on now.
And
you were on a roll.
The big example that they gave is how selectively we defend states' rights. For example, when a state wants to ban abortion, and the federal government says, wait a minute, it's the law of the land, we freak out and say, hey, states' rights, federal government, stay out of this, or stay out of healthcare, stay out of, federal government shouldn't do anything. You leave it all to the states. But then when a state wants to have gay marriage, then we go to the federal government and we say, hey, we got to pass a constitutional amendment. We need a bill from the federal, from the Senate to prevent these states from doing what they want to. We've just gone completely...
it's politics.
But aren't we smarter than that? I'm just saying, don't we see the hypocrisy?
We as a group, I think, is no different than we act no different as a group than we do as individuals.
I think we act worse.
That's probably true. But my point being that we are primarily concerned about ourselves, what we're going to eat, what we're going to drink, what we're going to wear, what we're going to do, how people treat us, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You put us in a big, gigantic group, and we're going to care about what we want and what our interests are, and not even think about that somebody else may, feel or think a different way.
I think, and this also comes from kind of getting into the minds of people that are terrified of us or of the Christian right, specifically the more radical, the more terrifying. What was I going to say?
You lost your train of thought?
It was so great. It was probably the best thing I've ever said.
Well, we were talking about how Christians as a group are hypocritical and they act worse as a group.
Is their concern... Okay, yeah, I remember. Their concern that we are not committed to constitutional democracy. Bottom line, that if we have an opportunity to make the Bible the law of the land, if we have an opportunity to take rights away from people that aren't behaving Christianly, that will give up constitutional democracy to make the nation, the Christian nation that we've always wanted. That's really the root behind
Do we think
most
that's true?
of the fear.
Well, maybe with some people it is, but I think the reason why they may be justified in that fear, and getting back to your thing about states' rights versus federal laws and all that, is because for many evangelicals and many fundamentalists, for sure, the ends justify the means. So the end of banning gay marriage is so righteous in their view that they will use whatever means necessary to get it done, whether it's a constitutional amendment or if it's ending abortion by any means necessary means getting the federal government out of the way so the states can have their rights, they'll do that. And so you keep seeing that tactic, and eventually critics will look at it and say, see, these people will do anything, even things that are inconsistent with their own political ideology, in order to get a certain outcome. And that is kind of scary. As of all people, Christians should understand that the ends don't justify the means.
Amen to that, brother.
But we're trying to save souls.
Something like that.
So you have to break a few eggs to make a soul omelet.
Someone has said that what you win people with is what you win them to.
I heard that somewhere.
It's kind of
say that again.
What you win people. What that means.
Well, it means you've got to be aware that your tactics matter, and you can't just use any means necessary to get to a certain outcome and not realize that the way you're going about doing it is having an impact.
Right.
Have we talked about atheists today?
Only on the periphery.
What about the gays? Have we talked about the gays?
The gaytheists.
We've mentioned them a couple of times.
Well, we did mention same-sex marriage.
Bill Maher, Bill Maher, our friend at HBO, he says atheism will become the new gay marriage as non-believers come out of the closet. He says there are no admitted atheists serving in Congress. 0, not one. And in a recent interview, comedian Bill Maher said that while he wouldn't be the one to break that trend, because they were asking if he would run for Congress, the tide was shifting in the favor of non-believers. Atheists are out there. They're thinking it. They're just afraid to say it. And then, at the end, this is an interesting note, the first openly gay congressman, Representative Barney Frank of Massachusetts, publicly admitted to Maher that he was an atheist earlier this year, but only after leaving Congress. Frank's announcement came more than 25 years after announcing that he was gay. So for him as a congressman, saying you were an atheist would be way more damaging than saying you were gay. I thought that was interesting.
Politically, yeah.
Politically.
It's very interesting.
I don't think atheism is a belief. I think it's a behavior.
That's not true. How can you say that?
Because I think there's lots of people who wouldn't, because functionally a lot of people live as if God doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But they would not call themselves
No,
atheists.
they wouldn't. But I don't really care what you call yourself. If you're living like an atheist, if you're living like God doesn't exist, then,
Guy, you
then
should
you're
care
a
about
functional,
people.
Then you're a functional atheist. I'm sure there's lots of atheists in Washington.
Yeah, they're functional atheists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not necessarily, they're not arguing for atheist rights, or, I mean, they're not going to jump into
What rights do atheists not have?
They don't have the right to remain silent.
Like this is a case where I can actually understand, the issue. He said, what did he say? Atheism is the new
gay marriage.
Gay marriage. Gay marriage is a visible, tangible kind of right that people wanted to have for themselves that they didn't have, or non-discrimination in hiring or housing or whatever it might be.
Right.
Where are atheists being denied anything?
That's true. I will bake a wedding cake for an atheist couple.
Yeah, there you go.
If I baked.
I mean, are people not getting jobs because they're atheists? Are they not allowed housing?
At Christianity Today? I think so.
Well, it's a religious organization.
Okay.
Right? So, but that's why I don't get his argument. I don't see how atheism is the new gay rights.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Because
politically, I can understand the
gay marriage was fighting for a right that was explicitly
denied.
Well, he's not talking about that, is he really? He's basically saying nobody wanted to admit they were gay.
So it's more just
it's politics.
Being gay, not gay marriage.
Right.
It's more that you don't want to admit.
He's saying it's
gay.
politically damaging to say you don't believe in God.
And it is.
And it is. But no one's saying you have to believe in God to be in Congress.
Right.
It may be politically advantageous, but
you're not being denied membership at a country club.
Right.
Because you're an atheist.
Unless,
So how many atheists are there in the United States? Well, let's say professing atheists.
What's the percentage? Is it like 10%? Less than 10%?
No, it's less than 10. It depends on how you classify agnostics and others. I mean, there's a lot of nuns. There are a lot of people, not Catholic nuns, but people who now check the box, say, I have no religious affiliation. And that's up like close to 20%, I think.
Yeah, but the number of functional atheists, though, is going to be much, much higher.
There are a lot of dysfunctional atheists, though. Have you bumped into any?
So atheist means there is no God.
Right.
Agnosticism means I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't have a position on that. I can't tell. I can't see him from here. Where did he go?
Which is a much more honest position because atheism is affirming that there is no God.
That's why I say it's a belief.
Well, of course, it's the belief, but I think there's a lot of people who are actually atheists who would say, no, I believe there's a God. Mm-hmm. But their life is, for all practical purposes, an atheist's life.
I have another story here that I'm pulling up.
Pull it up, Phil. Come on.
Okay. Pope Francis is significantly upping the Catholic Church's buzz quotient, but another congregation is hoping to take America and other countries by storm. Like Methodism and Episcopalianism, the Sunday Assembly is a British import, but with a difference. The Church doesn't believe in God. Its motto is live better, help often, and wonder more. It's striving to be a global atheist religion. We actually talked about this, the Sunday gathering.
Right.
It was in one church in England. It was started by two stand-up comedians. I think that should be concerning right there. When a world religion, an attempted new world religion is started by stand-up comedians.
Yeah, but they're saying it's not a religion.
Sanderson Jones and Pippa Evans started the original Sunday assembly in
is that a nickname? Is that a real? I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's a real name.
Is that a real name?
Hang on. I'll Google it and see. I don't know. I don't know, Sky. Started the original Sunday assembly. I'm trying to do hard-hitting news,
clearly.
Sky, in a decommissioned London church in January where we covered the story. Not there, but I mean here, but then. And there are now 5 congregations in the Sunday Assembly Everywhere denomination. They're calling it the SAE, the Sunday Assembly Everywhere denomination. 3 in Britain, 1 in New York, and 1 in Melbourne, Australia. Starting October 22nd, Evans and Jones are starting a quote-unquote global missionary tour to visit the 4 branch congregations and set up new ones in 18 other cities in Britain, Scotland, Ireland, the USA, Canada, and Australia. The stated goal is to have a godless congregation in every town, city, and village that wants one.
There already is.
No, congregation.
Yeah, there already is.
What is,
there are plenty of godless churches around.
Now, this is interesting. This is where it gets interesting. Jones and Evans promise that the assembly will solace worries, provoke kindness, and inject a touch of transcendence into the everyday. And then, to give a hint of some things a really good Rotary Club luncheon may not provide, life can be tough. It is. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. We have moments of weakness, or life just isn't fair. We want the Sunday assembly to be a house of love and compassion where, no matter what your situation, you are welcomed, accepted, and loved. Well, that's a huge need. Wouldn't it be nice if there were places that welcomed people, no matter who they were?
I bet they're nice people to hang out with.
Yeah, okay, now here's where it gets even more interesting. Ian Dodd, the Los Angeles Assembly co-founder. Oh, wait a minute. Back up. Nick Spencer at a website called Theos says, in the 19th century, non-religious people formed hundreds of ethical unions focused on good works and community with services structured along the lines of a church liturgy. They lasted for a generation or two. Spencer explains, the reason for that was because you need more than an absence to keep you together. You need a firm common purpose. When you can see in these, what you can see in these modern day atheist churches is people united by a felt absence of community. I suspect what brings them together is a real desire for community when in a modern, urbanized, and individualized city like London, you can often feel very alone. That creates a lot of camaraderie, but the challenge then becomes what actually unites us. And then Ian Dodd, the Los Angeles Assembly co-founder, says, the church model has worked really well for a couple of thousand years. What we're trying to do is hold on to the bathwater while throwing out the baby Jesus.
That's a great quote.
That is a good quote.
All right, I think this is actually a very positive development.
Ooh, do tell.
Okay, let me hear it. Let me hear that.
Okay. Imagine if here in Wheaton or in the Chicago area, there were a dozen of these atheistic Sunday assembly gatherings where people had community.
Then we could picket them.
Or just join.
Because we're running out of places to picket here in Wheaton. People had community, they had support groups, they had a sense of transcendence, whatever, they did all those things. Why would people go to church? Why would Christians gather? Why would somebody want to be a part of a church? What is the church? What is the only thing the church has that no one else does?
Jesus.
God.
And is that such a bad reason to gather? So what it does is it actually purifies what it is that unites us. A friend of mine a couple of years ago wrote a piece. Paul Lewis Metzger wrote an interesting piece for us in Leadership. Oh yeah, gotta hit that. About how in many communities and many churches we're more unified around the coffee bar in the church than we are around the Eucharist, because we have shifted the focus of our unity from Christ to we share a certain socioeconomic commonality that is expressed in a coffee bar.
Right.
Or we share a certain style of music that we really like, or whatever. But it's not Christ that really unites us. So when these other kinds of atheistic congregations emerge that offer all of the other benefits that the church is trying to create in a community, but they don't have Christ, it purifies what it is people might come to the church for.
Okay, so we need to clarify that we're not actually showing up for the bathwater.
Right. We are actually showing up for baby
Jesus.
Thank you, baby Jesus.
I always pray to baby Jesus. He's my favorite Jesus.
I can't believe you're quoting that movie. Shame on you for ever even watching.
I've actually never seen that movie.
Oh, you haven't?
But I've seen that.
I've only seen
that part
scene.
is funny.
Should we encourage? Should we cheer them on?
I think we should go to church with them.
Is it different than bowling leagues?
Not really.
The question is, how will it hold up over time?
I want to know where the money's going.
Do they take collectives?
I'm sure it costs money to pull an event together.
Yeah, it costs money to go on a global missionary tour, unless you're a really successful stand-up comedian. Then I suppose you could fund it yourself. Jay Leno could probably fund his own religion.
And they said that you have to be united around a cause of some kind, right?
Yeah.
So what causes are they uniting around?
Not believing in God.
Well, they kind of have some positive. He said it's not just the absence of something that reunites people. It has to be some positive
That's
engagement.
why he's predicting it will fizzle out in about a generation, like previous attempts at this. Benjamin Franklin attempted to start his own religion. Did you know that?
Really?
He didn't call it a religion, but he came up with his own.
Was it the Franklin Coven? Coven? Sorry, this came out wrong.
He was trying to, he appreciated how Christianity and what he would describe as the various sects of Christianity, how Christianity encouraged virtuous living. But he felt that the sectarianness of it just created conflict. So he attempted to distill out of all of the world's major religions, of which he wasn't familiar with all that many, living in Philadelphia, but to distill out of them what are the virtues that really matter. He came up with a list of 13. Then he came up with a plan for himself to perfect each one of those virtues in himself.
And this is all in his autobiography,
yes,
right?
This is all in his autobiography.
If you haven't read it, you really should.
It's fascinating.
Really?
And he worked on one a week, and he kept a ledger to show how he was doing in each virtue, which virtue he was working on that week.
This is what people did before television.
How many times he violated. This is what Benjamin Franklin did, because he was nuts.
He was nuts.
But then he decided that he was going to enlist other bright thinking young men of the colonies to join him, and they would make like little cells, little groups where they would meet together to go over their spreadsheets of their virtuous self-perfection.
Did they get patches when they perfected a virtue?
He never got that far.
Oh.
And the reason he never got that far is that he could never get a handle on his own sexual impulses.
Really?
Yeah, and that was the one virtue that he said he found it absolutely impossible to master. And then he got busy with nation building and inventing lots of
So this is
things.
also a book
He
you
also
read.
got busy with some French women.
But this is his
You
own
read
book.
this book?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I read lots of books. Why, I'm probably reading a book right now.
What book are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading American Theocracy right now and The Divine Conspiracy.
Oh, that's right. You said that before.
And I just read Sky's new book I read,
that's the old book.
Oh, yeah, new book, Foucherville.
And you
Why'd you call it
finished it, huh?
Foucherville? F-O-O-T.
Foucherville?
That would really catch people's attention. They say, what? I got to read that.
Because Futureville won't grab their attention.
Futureville, well, you hope it will.
I hope it will.
You hope it will. But the title is composed of real words. See, nonsense words will really grab you.
For which you are the expert.
Yeah.
As well as all other nonsense in general.
Okay. What other stories? We still have a little more time. What other stories? How's the Pope doing? What do you think of the Pope?
I like him.
Now you're setting me up because I didn't finish reading the article, but he did an extensive interview with an Italian atheist actually, and it's kind of making some waves. This interview, have you seen it?
I have not seen it. Do tell.
It's very long. I haven't gotten through it all. First of all, the fact that the Pope would sit down and do a public interview with an atheist is interesting alone. But then when you start reading the interview, you realize that what's actually happening is the Pope is having a very meaningful, personal conversation with this atheist. It's like the two of them are sitting down over drinks and having a conversation
it's like
about
Dan Cathy and the head of the Rainbow Coalition.
But we're all watching it happen.
It's like the Pope showed up at the atheist church for coffee time.
Yeah, and they're having a genuine conversation back and forth about how do you see the world. And in the midst of all of that, the Pope said something, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, obviously, about he's not trying to convert the guy, and just trying to convert people is not a good thing. And people have been running with this, saying the Pope doesn't care about mission, he doesn't care about evangelism, he doesn't care about conversion, he's totally liberal. I have a feeling that's not what's going on.
No, it doesn't sound like
I think what's going on is this Pope we're getting a glimpse of him having a genuine conversation with an atheist. And throughout the article, at least the parts that I've read, he keeps saying that he just really genuinely wants to get to know this guy. and gives him plenty of time to share his own thoughts about God and non-God and all that. So it's a.
I mean,
the Pope. I mean, who would have thought a couple of years ago?
I want to know how this
Right.
happened.
Right.
I mean, he is such a dramatic departure from any pope
did
ever
the Cardinals
before.
know what they were
Yeah,
getting?
really, that's what I wonder.
Has anyone written about that? I mean,
don't
did they
know.
honestly, are any of them saying, "Oh, yeah, this is exactly what we expected"? Or are they going, "Whoa"?
I'm sure some of them have got to be freaking out. Some of them have been
I didn't
applauding
see this
it.
coming.
I know Timothy Dolan, the cardinal in New York, has been very, very supportive and encouraging of what the Pope
driving
said.
around his 1984 Renault.
Is that what he has?
Yeah, well, a priest gave it to him because he doesn't want to ride in the Pope-mobile. So the Pope is driving himself around in a 1984 Renault, which the two hosts of Car Talk
Yeah?
said is proof that he believes in the power of prayer. Get it? Okay.
Did he give the Pope-mobile to Joel Osteen?
You're going to get me in
Be careful.
trouble.
What?
Man.
Be careful.
Man.
He has the largest church in the United States.
Be careful.
If it was
Doesn't mean he's
yeah.
the Pope. We don't have
Okay,
no Pope but Jesus.
Did he give it
Is
to
that the
Oprah?
saying? Oh, that makes more sense.
Popra?
Yeah, Popra. Huh. He said, the Pope said to, in an open letter to atheists earlier this month, he said, in his message, the Pope, among other things, had been asked whether God forgives those who do not believe and do not seek faith. And Francis seemed to hint in his response that those who don't believe are not necessarily excluded from God's forgiveness. Pope Francis wrote, given that, and this is the key point, God's mercy has no limits. If you go to him with a sincere and repentant heart, the issue for those who do not believe in God is to obey their conscience. That got people a little confused.
Yeah, that
It's
is
like,
a
what?
little.
Well,
What
this
did, what did
again,
he say? What did he say?
To my knowledge, the Pope has not changed any of the Orthodox beliefs of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
On any issue.
And that so far has been the official position
Yeah, and I
of
think,
the Catholic Church.
those
It's
who-
okay. We've been saying that all along.
Right, and
just not like that.
And that's very much rooted in Romans chapter 1, where
Yeah.
what God has revealed, it's called general revelation, what he's revealed about himself in the world, his power, all that Paul talks about, means we're accountable to those things, including our conscience, and to obey them. But there's a difference, at least in Reformed theology, between general revelation and special revelation. They would argue that general revelation is enough to get you in trouble, so you know what you're not
Right.
supposed to do,
Right.
but it's not enough to bring you into unity with God, which is what special revelation is needed for, and that's the revelation of Christ.
Right.
So I don't think he's saying anything other. He's just using language that people aren't familiar with.
Francis also addresses one of the themes of his predecessor, Pope Benedict the 16th, who had often condemned relativism, the incapacity of modern societies and men to recognize any absolute truth, such as God, as one of the evils of our time. For Francis, there is no such thing as an absolute truth, if that means a truth that can stand by itself without any relationship. And this is a quote from Francis. Truth, according to the Christian faith, is God's love for us in Jesus Christ. Therefore, truth is a relationship. He concludes, despite the slowness, the infidelity, the errors and sins it committed and might still commit against its members, the church, trust me, has no other meaning and goal but to live and witness Jesus.
Amen.
Wow.
Well, Jesus is saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So the truth is a
I know,
person.
but that's strong stuff.
You know, maybe I should become a Catholic.
Uh-oh.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next
You're going to
week.
get us in trouble.
No, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of Catholics who are genuine believers in Christ, just as there are many evangelicals who are not.
Amen to that,
Can you
brother.
name some?
I'm not going to go through this.
Okay.
I couldn't do that, but that just, yeah.
All right. Well, now that we're on TV, and hopefully you're watching us on TV, aren't you? No.
Even if they were watching us, it wouldn't be on TV.
We'll try it. They might have this plugged into their TV. They might have
You're still stuck in TV land.
TV Land. That's a Super Chick song.
It is?
Yeah, it's a good,
I didn't know
it's
that.
a good Super Chick song.
Wait, listen, I just have a question before we leave.
We're out of time. Actually, we're out of stories because I had a big story I was going to talk about this week, but then I have to wait and not talk about it this week, and so then we didn't have enough little stories. I'm sorry. So Sky said that he would dance, and I thought, okay, that could take up some time, but then he changed his mind. He chickened out. He said, no, I will not dance.
Someone forgot my hula skirt.
Sky. Yeah, you had a question?
Oh, you're going to let me ask my question?
Absolutely.
Are you going out of town? I mean, aren't we all going out of town? Where are you going?
I'm only in town for like 24 hours right now.
Wow, we caught you in your window.
In that little
wow.
window,
That's awesome. And I'm the chapel speaker at Taylor University tomorrow morning, which will already have gone by the time you hear this or watch this on TV.
Or your computer, or your iPhone and your iPad.
Yeah, and whatever. And then next week, I'm in Nashville to speak at the Lifeway Youth Ministry or Children's Ministry Conference. I don't remember which. And also for Andrew Peterson's Hutchmoot Conference.
You did that last year.
I know. I'm going back to
Hutchmoot.
Hutchmoot. Maybe it is in German.
Hutchmoot.
But I'm not German.
Yeah.
Actually, I am German, but I'm not going to say it that way.
It is Hutchmoot.
Where are you going?
Tomorrow, I go to New York City. I'm speaking on Saturday and Sunday at Bedford Community Church. And then on Sunday night at Trinity Grace in Chelsea. I'll be back Monday. But yesterday, I was in Dallas for the WFX conference.
That's like
You've lost your bell.
world wrestling thing?
That's WWFX.
And what was yours?
WFX, the Worship FX Conference, which is a very interesting story. Nice people down there.
Okay.
I have to share that some other time.
Yeah, maybe next time we can talk about
if you don't have your big story.
I can't wait for this big story. You know what? Let me just say this one thing, and that is that everybody in this room got this big story, but he refused to tell me. And I'm feeling a little wounded.
It's a strategy. It's a specific
He's got
strategy.
a master plan, and I guess we're going to have to go with it.
Okay, of the stories we talked about today, which one should I sing about?
I think you should sing about the church.
The atheist
church.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good luck with that.
Can you have a church without God? They might try it, but it seems a little odd. 'Cause they threw out the baby Jesus and kept his bathwater. Can you have a church based on a lack of belief? I think it's kind of weird. There might have been a thief who took a little of their logic out the window, along with baby Jesus, but not his bath water. It may get a little bit hotter if they don't know what they're worshiping. Can you worship nothing? You worship logic? You worship reason?
I'm sure you could.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I hope they bring one to our town so we can see the atheists gathering around and invite them out for coffee or to talk to the Pope, who seems to give atheists a whole lot of hope about going to heaven, maybe or maybe not, even if they believe in God.
That was the best ever.
That was really well.
Thanks.
Yeah.
See you next time, everybody.
Impressive.
See you guys.
Most impressive.